Hello, my name is Nicole Binney, and today I'm going to be reading you my paper, How Much Internet is Too Much Internet. When you hear the phrase the internet, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Maybe it's your grandmother's daily Facebook posts or the funny dogs you see on your TikTok For You page. However, for many others, the beginning of the internet can bring feelings of trauma and regret from unfiltered and unrestricted access, sometimes at the fault of parental figures. Specifically, this type of access starts at a young age. Children as young as 2 years old are seen just about anywhere with their heads buried into an iPad, mindlessly watching whatever YouTube video is in the queue next. Young children are not the only ones at risk of the dangers of the internet, though. Most studies observe teens whose brains are still growing and are very easily influenced. Before learning about the consequences of the internet, it is important to know its long history. When was it created? How was it created? And why? The idea and implementation of the internet started around the 1960s and was intended to be used as a government database, one where researchers could share information from long distances or anonymously. If you remember history class well, this was when the Cold War became an issue on everyone's radar. Officials in the US noticed how many technological advancements the Soviet Union had made. This served as a kick to the gut to get our affairs in order. Just as the challenge for the space race went, a similar race regarding the internet followed. Flash forward 20 years to January 1st, 1983, the day recognized as the official birthday of the internet. This time is when devices used to communicate remotely, resembling computers and smartphones that we use today, began to increase in relevance. And that is from the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia. 7 years later, in 1990, the WWW, or World Wide Web, was established. The www is a domain that every website runs under, which is why it's in every web address you see. For example, www.yourwebsite here. But it would take 5 more years for companies to launch their semi-finalized programs. Some pioneer programs included Windows 95, Amazon, Yahoo, Internet Explorer, Java, and eBay. The early 2000s marked the big bang of the internet. It became more easily accessible to the public and featured alluring programs of social media and retail outlets. And that is from Thomas Jefferson University Online, bringing us to where we are today. There are now thousands of social media apps, online retailers, games, and many more essential and non-essential programs. A pediatrician-led study linked with the website healthychildren.org shows that roughly 3 out of 4 teenagers have smartphones. However, I believe that nowadays the percentage is a lot higher. Throughout my high school experience, I have never met anyone who did not have a personal phone or easy access to one. Surprisingly, only 1 out of 4 teenagers admitted to having problems with internet addiction, and that is from digital media and your children and teens. Much like the percentage of smartphone owners, I also believe this percentage is lowballed and inaccurate in today's world. The main reason is that this article and the studies involved were conducted before the COVID-19 pandemic that shocked the world. During this time, almost everyone across the world was forced into momentary isolation. The isolation lasted days, weeks, months, even a little over a year. There are so many things that one can do in isolation before boredom creeps in and the idea of the internet becomes even more glorified. After 4, 5, 6 days of board games, you're bound to seek refuge in a YouTube video or a group chat with friends. Once a cycle of scrolling starts, it is challenging to escape. The only excitement in the days to come revolves around seeing new videos and pictures uploaded. In a time where we are faced with great tragedy, it is human nature to seek comfort, whether it's through your phone or in person, where limitedly possible. With the tiny bit of external connection to people you have left while remaining aware of COVID-19 transmission. Though COVID-19 contributed significantly to the overuse of the internet by children and teens, it is not the only factor that contributes to its popularity. The article was published there's a frog. The article cited was published mid-2016 and technology was prominent, but it was not as great as it is today. There were a limited amount of gaming systems and methods of internet usage, whereas now we have almost anything we can imagine, not to mention the seemingly millions of types of iPhones that have surfaced since then. Even if the method of internet usage is not through a mobile phone, there are still countless other gaming systems like Xboxes, PlayStations, and Nintendo Switches, laptops, and PCs. In fact, the same study as before found that 4 out of 5 households own a gaming system. When the two statistics of smartphone owners and gaming system owners are put together, a slim chance remains for people to not have either. This statistic in this context is only related to studies conducted in the US. In other countries, such as those that are classified as third world, the percentage of smartphones and devices owned by population would be vastly lower. Most of the population of the US alone is at risk for internet addiction. But what are the physical and mental symptoms and warning signs? The first and arguably the scariest symptom is exhibiting risky behavior. Risky behavior is a broad term but can be picked apart to mean behaviors that pose a risk to people and other people's minds or bodies. Easy examples to pose are taking part in drugs and alcohol. For example, let's say that Jenny has been exposed to the internet since the age of 3, but is a straight A model student. One day she tumbles into the wrong stranger, and this stranger convinces her that school is not essential. Instead, she should focus on the entertaining parts of life, such as drugs and alcohol. You may think that Jenny should have a strong mind and block the stranger on all platforms, leaving the situation at that. Nevertheless, this is more difficult to do than most people would think. Strangers can have an iron grip on young girls and boys by making them feel safe and using flattery to gain their trust. This tactic is called grooming and can be surface level or life-threatening. Surface level being creepy comments and life-threatening being stalking and hunting down the victim. Grooming is an action performed by a pedophilic individual who intends to meet a child in person and perform sexual acts on them through manipulated consent or non-consensual rape. The NSPCC, or National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, is an excellent non-profit organization based in the UK. It seeks to keep children safe from grooming and trafficking. They found that groomers are not just creepy 50 to 60-year-old white men, despite what the public may stereotype them as. They can be any gender, sex, age, and race, so it is crucial to make children aware of these dangers. Groomers may even form relationships with friends and family to seem more trustworthy to the victim. This term is not exclusive to strangers. People close to the victim could very well be involved. Soccer coaches, dance teachers, and seemingly friendly neighbors are great examples. They aim to manipulate a child through the internet in hopes of sexual favors, a potential trafficking victim, or a twisted connection that would be too taboo or illegal to pursue in person. This connection is not formed solely through talking or playing games with the victim. Other tactics include sending gifts as forms of flattery and affection. Most children do not know any better. If they see a nice person giving them gifts, it would be crazy to assume that they would be taking advantage of them, right? Another popular grooming method isolates the victim from loved ones, turning them against their friends and family and causing them to rely on the groomer for comfort. Alternatively, a more sinister route of using blackmail frightens the victim into keeping quiet. If you tell anyone about us, then I will tell them all of your secrets. No matter the predator's approach, it has parents all over the nation and the world worried about the safety of their children. A YouTube channel titled Bark is a valuable resource for parents, making it increasingly easier to talk to their children about dangerous situations on the internet. The channel currently has over 130,000 subscribers and is officially verified by YouTube moderators. The video I chose to highlight contains situations that may make the viewer uncomfortable, but it is imperative to see a grooming scenario firsthand. In the video, a mother poses as her 11-year-old child and begins to surf the internet, involving herself in chat rooms, popular social media apps, and more. It takes some to no time for her to encounter dangerous scenarios, both in the form of predators trying to be sly and toxic posts supporting eating disorders and unreasonable beauty standards. When children face the horror of a groomer, the natural reaction is to be worried, maybe even scared. As I mentioned, groomers are sadly excellent at baiting young children into their grasp and taking advantage of them. Often this leaves the victim feeling abused and helpless, which brings up the next danger of the internet, cyber-suicide. Close it in. The National Library of Medicine defines cyber-suicide as websites or individuals that seek to lure vulnerable members of society and empower them with various methods and approaches to deliberate self-harm. Most of the time, these individuals fall under the groomer category. They seek to play sick games with easily moldable minds, sprouting ideas of self-harm and suicide from a young age and even glorifying it. When I was younger, I was a victim of this, and luckily, I never had to face a situation with a groomer. Yet I knew many young girls who did, but I was a victim of suicide glorification. I remember my first encounter very precisely. I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I was looking through my Instagram innocently, just trying to find cheats for a new game I had received for Christmas. I tapped on an account that appeared to be helpful and went to the comment section to ensure it was legitimate. In the comments, I found an account, possibly a bot account, that had a very ominous ring to it. I do not remember the account's exact name, but it was something to do with darkness and death. Being a curious 11-year-old, I decided to look into it, thinking, what's the worst that could happen? Spoiler alert, everything goes downhill from this point on. The account was full of graphic images of self-harm, like cutting, burning, etc., and motivational messages encouraging others to harm themselves. I quickly exited the page and sat speechless for a couple of minutes. About 3 weeks later, I was getting bullied at school and thought back to those posts. I decided to try it and see what all the glorification and hype were about. Sean, close the door. Sorry. I will not go into extreme detail, but I will say that it took a while to dig myself out of that hole every day. I think about what my life would have been like if I never stumbled upon that page. The road to my recovery was paved through therapy and online resources such as healthyplace.com, a website offering advice for many types of addiction and suffering. Cyber suicide and internet addiction typically go hand in hand, especially in my case. Therefore, I was advised to combat the issue at the roots. If I learned to not be so dependent on the internet, I would be less exposed to harmful content less often. One of the most reliable methods to curb internet addiction is to have external stoppers. They are defined as concrete things that the patient needs to do or places to go as prompters to help log off. Adults may be going to work at 9 in the morning to 5 p.m., and with children and teenagers, this may be going into school from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Keeping yourself in situations where you are not allowed to use devices for personal internet surfing does wonders to help halt your addiction. Paired with strict self-discipline, it is almost sure to stop. A team of medical professionals from multiple universities worldwide, with most coming from the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens, Greece, have worked on months and years worth of research on internet safety for people of all ages. Their research paper hits many points I've also highlighted, such as grooming, cyber suicide, and internet addiction. Their conclusion encapsulates everything I sought to bring awareness to. And I quote, "However, the internet is provided in abundance and is easily accessible, and the illogical use of the internet makes it quite dangerous, especially for young users. For this reason, users should be aware and face the information critically handled at the websites, so that to ensure proper behavior and to limit the excessive use of it." In simple terms, they state that because the internet is so easy to access, self-discipline and caution are needed to ensure the safety of the user and those around them. Before allowing children to explore the internet, brief them on the dangers, no matter how frightening or upsetting it may be for them. Put restrictions in place to help keep them safe, and limit their daily access to only a few hours at a time. With measures in place, the internet can be fun and exciting instead of dangerous. Overall, the internet is a beautiful creation, but like every other beautiful creation, it has its dangers, and as a society, we need to be aware of just how bad it can be. It is hard to face the nasty truth, but turning a blind eye to negativity is only guaranteed to cause more downfalls for innocent children and adults. Exercise excellent safety when surfing the web, whether an innocent Facebook meme or shopping for a brand new couch. Every part of the internet has the potential to be dangerous if abused or explored a little too deeply. It is up to us to enjoy the bounty and convenience of the internet and to warn younger generations of issues that may arise in hopes of preventing the many of the downsides that exist today.